All right, everybody, welcome back to Field Pass Podcast. My name is Zach. I'm here with my co-host Braden, and we're here to bring you coverage of this Week 13 in the NFL season. Sorry about the delay or not the delay, just the lack of content last weekend. We were too busy stuffing our faces. I had 4 Thanksgiving dinners that I had to go to, so within that, I was asleep for too long with all that tryptophan for me to be able to record one of these podcasts because it's too much energy that goes into, it's high octane. It's just the way that it is. So we're back here today bright and early, ready to go and give you our takes on the upcoming NFL season. Brandon, did you have anything that you wanted to contribute about your holiday weekend?
I had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Um, yeah, I hope everyone did too. And yeah, it was a good weekend for me.
Yeah, that was the worst weekend of my life, actually. I wanted to kill myself. With the Ohio State loss, and then it just kept piling on too because the Browns lost in that ugly way to the Broncos, where I thought everyone was going to be on IR the upcoming week, and then the Cavs found a way to lose. But then they did end up winning against the Raptors, so there was at least a a little bit of a, I guess, sprinkling on that shitty week. Anyway, all right, okay. So our highlights of the week are as follows. I really thought that the most important out of Braden's the one that really comes up with these highlights, and he just sends them over to see if I'm cool with him. But I thought this one was the one that really deserved the most attention, and that would be the Eagles winning back-to-back big games against the Bills, which kind of made me look like an idiot because Josh Allen was slinging that thing. He was really
They put up a
putting it
dogfight.
together. Yeah, and that's not something that I expected at all. I was just kind of expecting the the Bills to get punched in the mouth because that's the way that things have been lately. And also, it's not like the Eagles have an amazing defense where they're like necessarily turnover prone. But I anyone that really goes against Josh Allen, any like sort of vetted team, I'm skeptical against. And maybe that's just me. I'm kind of bought into like the anti-analytical side of things as it relates to Josh Allen because I do actually think that the turnovers are a massive problem. The analytics would say that they're really not that big of a deal just by the way that he moves the ball. But anyway, I expected this to go poorly for the Bills. And it didn't really. I mean, the Eagles were able to come back with a big win, other than a Gabe Davis overthrow at the end, which probably would have ended the game. Josh Allen played a pretty good game, and despite a lethargic Eagles start in the first half, they were really able to put it together. And with a Jake Elliott, what was it? It was like a 58-yard field goal or
59,
something,
I believe.
59-yard field
Because
goal.
yeah,
Crazy.
Amendola was 58 and Jake was 59.
Which kind of is messed up how he got cut for that. Um, but yeah, so what do you think this says about the Eagles now that they were able to really just prove that they're in it?
I said it a couple weeks ago. They now are undoubtedly the best team in the league right now. I don't think that should be a question. They went to Arrowhead, probably the hardest stadium to play in the NFL,
Yeah.
and won. They were pretty much in control. They shut the Chiefs out in the second half. That's very hard to do. And then they didn't play the greatest game against Buffalo. They made mistakes. They had to rely on their kicker, but they got the job done. And they're no other team has 2 losses, I believe, right now, right? I think everyone else has 3.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of
So
my head. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's
because the
it.
Lions lost. That was the only other 2 loss team.
Yeah.
So every Eagles were the only team with 9 losses, and the second like best. All there's a bunch of teams with 3 losses right now, but like that's the second tier. So I think the Eagles have they're like the team to beat this year right now. I think they'll become the number 1 seed in the NFC. And who knows what they goes from there? Is it Jalen Hurts' revenge season? He's playing like it. So this offense is clicking, and it's very scary.
The thing about this team that I struggle to, not that I don't think that they're legitimate or they're not the best team in the NFL, and previously I had said that the Ravens were, which I don't necessarily regret saying because Lamar was playing at a pretty high level at that point. That really comes back to it. Like, although the Eagles are this great team, sometimes their offense, like I said, it does look pretty lethargic. And to say that Jalen Hurts is like the clear MVP for the season, I don't think would be true. I think that it's still like this like muddy water of quarterback play where there's really no front runner. There's no one that you can really hang your hat on and say like this guy's deserving of it. And I don't even really think you can say that about Hurts. Um, but it's been enough to win these games and put them in a point where they only have 2 losses. So it's a great position to be in if you're them. It just feels weird to look at a team and like not know them for their quarterback play per se, or like not have that team that's the best in the NFL have this like crazy amazing quarterback who's able to get it done for what seems like the first time in a while, especially with the way that Mahomes has just been taking over the league the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
one thing I hate that the MVP is just turned into a quarterback award, but
I agree.
that's another topic for a different day. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that once the awards finally come out. But it
yeah,
does stink that you like what you're supposed to like if you just don't play quarterback, there's no possible way that you could be the most like valuable player in the league. That just stinks. I don't
that's
want to.
just
I wouldn't
politics at
want to be
that point.
relegated. Yeah. All right, Braden. We over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a really difficult Bengals. Uh, I don't even know what you would call it, like a downturn. This is with full respect to you, like this is just a crappy situation. Like no one wants to be stuck with Jake Browning. No one wants to see Joe Burrow hurt. Um, but he is, and he's out for the rest of the season unless Aaron Rodgers comes in and gets him on some experimental medication. um, what do you think this means for the future of the Bengals? Not so much as it relates to Burrow. I think we're clear that I think he will be able to make a clear recovery. But what do you think this means for the Bengals as a team or as a franchise?
Um, that Thursday night in Baltimore was the last time we saw that group together. I think that's what that means. I think Joe and Joe will stay and Jamar will stay. Either one of Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins will leave. One or both. I don't think both of them stay. I think we both know who's going to leave in T. Higgins, but I mean, you never know these days. He may not like how this season is up because he's been hurt as well. But this season wise, we are the first team eliminated from the playoffs. Like we're
At least in the
we are
AFC
0 and
North.
4 in the division, bro. We are 0 and 4. We
Yeah,
are not we're maybe winning one or two more games. Like Jake Browning saying he wants the same workload. No, bro, you don't. Like
he's
all
really
respect to you.
bad.
You're a backup quarterback for a reason. I mean, and I would rather have do what the Browns are doing and pick up someone else because Jake Browning ain't it. I mean, we had like 4 yards or like some bad stat in the third quarter. I turned the game off and went to bed, took a nap. The Bengals Steelers game. I got tired of watching that. First of all, to see Kenny Pickett slinging the rock, and then I see Jake Browning on the other side. It made me a little bit upset, but I think the Bengals season's over. I mean, maybe we could play for a top 15 draft pick, get Brock Bowers, that would help. That's someone I have circled on my list for the Bengals to get. But yeah, man, with Burrow being done, we're done for the season, and
yeah.
it's the last time that group played together, which
I
is
think it was pretty clear that as it relates to probably the most valuable position of this season in that of the backup quarterback, you guys are pretty much broke. When we
I would
saw that,
rather start AJ McCarron over him. I don't know why they're
yeah,
doing that.
that preseason play by Browning, that was miserable. And then it didn't go super well against the Steelers. He had a couple decent throws, but it's just like when you see that guy come out onto the field, no one is going to play at their best. And I think the Bengals know that it is over, and it's just been a really crappy season for injuries. And I agree with you. I don't think T is going to be with you guys. I don't know if any of the rumors are true as it relates to him intentionally sitting out or like trying to like.
I don't think that. I think
I don't think that's true either. I think he
no.
genuinely does want to play, but I think it's a crappy situation. Hamstring injuries are really, really lurky. So I hope he gets better here soon.
Yeah.
You touched on this, but the next highlight we have coming up here is that Steelers' new offense, which I'm kind of skeptical about. Like personally, I think that Matt Canada, he was an issue. We know that's an issue when you're throwing out routes like the entire game. Like it's probably not going to work, or like where half of the passes are behind the line of scrimmage. Like especially when you have someone like George Pickens and Deontay Johnson who aren't bad receivers at all. They're actually quite accomplished. I mean, I know Steelers fans may have some criticisms about Pickens just with the way he's been acting on the field or in off the field. Um, in
Same
this
with
kind of
Deontay.
yeah, and it's especially Deontay in this most recent week. While their offense did look a whole lot better, and they had like 400 yards, which is I think the most in a really long period of time. I don't know if that was like related to the
It
way,
was like 60 games for the first time
yeah,
they went. They
60 games.
outgained their opponent and had 400 yards.
I think that part of that is I will say that Matt Canada being gone does provide some relief in that department, but I still don't think that this is a vetted offense. I think the story of the Steelers is going to remain the same for the rest of the season, and I don't see this like continuing. At least you like the one, I guess, bright light that you could say like, you know what, maybe there has been some change, or like maybe this is a new leaf for the Steelers offense is the way that they got Freiermuth involved. He had a career day against the Bengals defense, who's not bad. Um, but I just thought it was interesting how recently, like right after the Browns game, everyone was kind of calling for Kenny Pickett's head. And then he had like a pretty respectable performance here against the Bengals. So it seems like everyone's back on the Pickett train. Um, it's to be seen whether or not that's going to stick around. I guess we can ride the season out and see what that looks like. Um, that's what I just all everything to say there is I'm skeptical. I don't think this is going to be something that continues.
I kind of agree with you. I think that Matt Canada not being there is gonna make their offense better.
Yeah,
And I don't think they'll be as bad as they were. Now, I'm not saying I don't think they'll be putting up 400 yards every game. They probably will this week, but yeah, just I mean, one thing also is I think the Bengals are kind of surprised because at least on the very first play of the game, I noticed Freiermuth ran a post down the middle,
he
but the
puts it
two
right down the middle.
linebackers kind of like just went to that like hashes and like was like kind of defending the outside of the field, like expecting them just to throw the outside and kind of abandoning the middle. And I feel like that happened a couple times and it just caught them off guard. But Kenny Pickett played a good game. Najee Harris had a good game. And I think the Steelers offense is better. I don't know if it's gonna be like it's not gonna be like a high powered offense, but it's gonna have more production than it was giving. They just need to put points on the board because they only scored 16 points. And they made a game close that really shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they weren't expecting that for sure. I mean, you got to think about the film that they were watching on this offense. Like getting rid of an offensive coordinator, kind of it completely. You have no idea what to expect after you've that whole week you or like a couple of days in that week you've watched film on this opponent. You're kind of expecting to see the same old Steelers offense where hopefully you're going to be able to make a guy miss, and then miraculously in the fourth quarter you're going to be able to find a win. That really wasn't the way that this week was. It was close, but it felt like the Steelers were actually in it for most of the game. Um, so I can't blame the Bengals for kind of expecting the same old, but uh, and at that by the end of things, I think it will appear to be the same old. Like I don't think this is going to be a suddenly productive offense, but there were definitely deviations that you really couldn't account for. All right. I'll start with this one because this was a miserable week for me, like I said. But we need to talk about the Broncos in Denver. Now at a 6-5 record, they were previously at a 1-5. They are on fire. They're just blazing through the league, really taking down everyone by storm. I was quite confident in the Browns' chances this week, even with DTR, and I think that if he stayed in the game, I think that there was a possibility that we could have won that game with the way that like we were kind of getting it moving towards the end and a half. Like the momentum completely shifted though once he got popped in the mouth like that. But really, both sides of the ball looked decent. Russ was placing it where he needed to place, other than a couple of bad throws that were probably, um, that they're still probably shaking out. You can't really do much about that. Um, but yeah, I mean, they looked hot. To be honest, it looked like a team that was coached by Sean Payton. Um, and I'm not going to try and like dig up the Bounty Gate stuff because that is like that's already there have been a million words about that already. But man, these guys were hitting hard. Like it, and I don't think it's necessarily as much about them being coached by Sean Payton, although I do think that is an aspect of it. I think genuinely a part of that team is so like affronted from that 70-point loss that and they, I mean they said it in the broadcast that they've just bought into like this is never going to happen again, so we're going to do whatever is necessary to ensure that we're never in that position. So I mean, as a Browns fan, I'm partial. You're going to be listening to this, and if you're a Denver fan, you're going to be rolling your eyes. But like, they're holding people all over the place, wrapping their like. There's a still of Myles Garrett with his visor completely covered up by this guy's forearm. Um, there was a crazy hit on Amari Cooper, which Elijah Moore kind of gave the DB trouble for, which I don't know is particularly fair. But yeah, and then that DTR hit was pretty rough as well. So it's like these guys are bought in and they don't want to give up this streak whatsoever. I mean, I guess that's all you can say about it. Is that they're vetted, they're serious, and ever since that 70-point loss, they've really gotten it together. And really, there's not much that you can point to in that team that's especially weak.
It's just crazy to see the turnaround they had after the Thursday night football loss in Kansas City. Because they were sitting at 1-5 at that point, and they've rallied come they've gone the whole opposite direction. I mean, I don't know if they're in the playoff picture yet, but they're one of the top like outside looking in. They're in contention for the playoffs now.
I think they are in the wild card right now.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean, regardless, they're up there
yeah.
and they're playing physical football. I wouldn't say. I mean, some of these hits were dirty. I think the DTR hit, as like as tough it was clean. If it would like, I get the roughing the passer the call, but he leaned with his shoulder and
But I
kind of
think
like,
what they got them on is the fact that he launched off the ground, which you can debate whether or not that's a fair thing to call, but they're calling that now.
yeah.
So, and he did launch, but
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I think I don't mind it being called for roughing the passer, but I don't think people should be going out of the way that they're trying to get DTR to the game because if it, that's a football hit, man. Like we're
yeah.
whether the way the game's turning, they're trying to avoid it, but that's a football hit and it's gonna happen. And I think these Broncos are just pissed about all the outside noise and they're just trying to prove themselves. And I mean they beat a very tough Cleveland team, and even though they're without their Cleveland, you guys are without Deshaun, but it still matters that they won that game. Like that game, DTR is serviceable right now, like to where you guys can still win games with how good your defense is. And I think the Broncos were just trying to send a message at, like, trying to say that we're up, like we're on the playoff team caliber. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
and they
I
are.
wouldn't. Yeah, I don't think we should look really past like any worse than that. I think they're just trying to prove themselves to everyone else.
Yeah, I have stuff to say about this Cleveland defense, but I'm gonna keep it reserved until we talk about this upcoming week.
Yeah, but not on Monday morning, we found out Frank Reich was out at Carolina. And my question to you, Zach, is looking forward, the Panthers don't have a first round pick this year. I don't know if they had the one after that, but they've basically cleaned house almost with it's not just the head coach. I know they've fired the QB coach and
Yeah, quarterback coaches. Yeah.
a couple other. What do the Panthers do now? And like I heard Adam Schefter say this, how do you get someone to come into that situation?
Yeah, well, to answer your first question, the hell if I know. I saw a headline today, or not today. It was the day prior to his firing, Frank Reich's firing, and the headline was akin to like the Panthers like in an aimless limbo or something like that. Like they just genuinely, seemingly have no idea where to go from here. When it comes to running a franchise, and that's clear by the way that David Tepper has been hiring coaches and has been sort of delegating work. And I know if you're a Panthers fan, I follow a couple of Panthers beat reporters um, on Twitter since around the time where they were like doing off-season moves, and I was in a couple spaces about it when they were listening about it, and like the hate towards uh David Tepper is like it's intense. It's fiery, and people are actually saying in that group, and I know this is probably an overreaction, but uh they were essentially like equating their situation to DC's with the way that the GM is consistently basically taking over and being way more involved than they believe he should. Um, so it's not a fun situation to be in if you're a Carolina Panthers fan with this management like this. Uh, as it relates to like people coming in and like, do you really want people like do coaches want to come and coach this team? I think that they will be able to. I mean, you do have talent. Like there is talent on this team. The defense plays really well in there at home. And I know that's like not a great thing to say. If that's what you're saying about your defense, then you probably have a pretty crappy defense. But they do play really well at home. You got some nice assets on the team. You do have Brian Burns, and I think people still do believe in Bryce Young and have come to the conclusion that anybody within this situation would probably struggle. And I'm personally very glad that CJ Stroud got drafted to the Texans, because we may be looking at an Ohio State quarterback slanderous opinion uh, currently, had that not been the case. But it's while this isn't an ideal situation, especially with management who is so pervasive and very clearly uh, more involved than he should be. I think just with the amount of money that you're going to get paid as and the opportunity that you get being an NFL coach, people are still going to want to come to this team, and there's still an appeal. Um, and you do have that good talent in Bryce Young, and I think people believe in him. I think that people can I think there are a number of coaches who believe that they can turn him into being a franchise quarterback. It's just going to be a trudge through this awful management and a season that really doesn't look like these couple seasons are going to be hard because, like you said, they don't have their first round. Um, so it's going to be rough, but I think people will still be interested and so they'll find someone who will take a risk.
Yeah, the one person that the Carolina wants are that I was listening to the Pat McAfee show on Monday, and a Panthers reporter and Schefter both said this, that they want Ben Johnson, the Lions defensive coordinator. But Schefter brought this up, is that they wanted Ben Johnson last year, but Ben Johnson didn't want them.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they're gonna get him, and I don't like they may have to go somewhere else. I think it was the right move to fire their coach because I mean they like here's the situation. They're down by 7 in the final minutes of the game. They have a 4th and 7. What do they call? A wide receiver bubble screen. Like, I mean, you're not even giving Bryce Young a chance. Like, I
Yeah.
think that whole system was just awful for him. So I don't necessarily blame him, but I think there's still a lot of potential there, and that's what will bring people in. But I mean, some of the moves this group made in their short time was kind of questionable, you can say.
Yeah, another name that I saw people bring up, and Panthers fans they're still upset with the Wilkes firing. Steve Wilkes, he was the interim coach post Rule. Um, he really was able to utilize PJ Walker in a way that clearly the Cleveland Browns haven't been able to because he
Yeah,
sucks.
they
Like,
almost made the playoffs.
yeah, and PJ Walker was able to produce, and they were actually able to design a scheme around him, which now that you're looking at the way that PJ Walker is performing is actually really impressive, especially considering that Steve Wilkes was a defensive coach, which was kind of like one of the reasons why it seems to be one of the reasons why Tepper didn't want to continue Wilkes' contract, and why some Panthers fans are still like kind of outside because the league is so oriented towards like offensive coaches. Um, I only say that because what people were looking for as it relates to like a new coach was Bobby Slovic, offensive coordinator for the Texans, which I think would be a good hire with the way that this offense has miraculously been good uh, with under CJ Stroud. I don't think that losing Slovic would be a massive hit for the Texans team as a whole, just because of the way I think D'Amico Ryan is a really solid coach and he'd be able to find a good replacement. Um, but I think that Bobby Slovic a really good option if they were able to get him. But you would really have to throw the check at him if you wanted him to leave that team because they don't look like they can. They're not on the. They're not gonna fall here anytime soon.
Yeah, and I have one candidate in mind, but I don't think he'll go to the Panthers, and you won't want to hear that name. So that's it.
It's
That's
Jim Schwartz. He's not gonna
no,
do it.
I don't nah, that's not who I'm even talking about. But there's one that I heard from someone, but I don't think he'll go to the Panthers.
Who
I
is it?
think
Ryan Day? Because he can leave.
yeah,
He's
I think if he leaves Ohio State, he'll go to the NFL. But I feel like a more likely scenario for him is the Chargers because
Ryan Day to the Chargers.
I don't think it will
No
happen, but I'm
chance.
saying I think I think if Ryan Day leaves, he'll go to the NFL and the way he coaches is very popular in the NFL right now. It's very offensive oriented. It's not in the Big Ten, it's not like it hasn't won game that's proven, but in the NFL, the way it's trending, it can. So, and I feel like that if he goes anywhere at this point, because he's not going to A&M or anywhere, he will go to the NFL. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm saying if he leaves, I think that's where he's going to go. And I think LA is a possibility, but I think there's like a 5% chance.
I actually, now that I say no chance, and I know the team of LA, they would totally make a decision like that. They would totally get rid of Staley for another schmuck.
Yeah.
But
I'm just I'm being real. That's what I think Day
yeah,
could leave for the NFL, or else he's staying. But I
yeah.
think that's enough for Coach Carousel. That's once more of these opportunities open up, we'll really have a conversation about that. Because I mean, we still are in the middle of this great season. Let's move on to predictions starting on Thursday Night Football, which is a pretty good matchup. Like what the NFL was thinking with these primetime matchups, some of them you just scratch your head, but like you didn't really know it was going like these three primetime matchups. If you look at it like before the season started, were actually good. Um, at least for the Monday night one. But Cowboys Seahawks. Give me your thoughts on that, Zach.
All I'm gonna say is I am a prophet. I called it. And people are coming around to my method of thinking. The Seahawks are going to have a real big trouble making the playoffs. You they didn't look particularly great against the Rams. I think didn't Gino go out for an injury for a little bit?
Gino and
Like
Kenneth Walker
yeah, and it
got
doesn't
hurt.
look like Kenneth Walker's going to be playing either for this game, which is another problem. Okay. Not only is it just the Cowboys this week, let me, for the listeners again who have forgotten what the Seahawks have to go through, because it is a gauntlet in the upcoming weeks. You have to play the Niners, you have to play the Eagles, you have to play the Titans, which is kind of easy. You have to play the Steelers, and then you have to play the Cardinals. Maybe you can get a win out of the
Titans and Cardinals.
the Titans and the Cardinals, but I really don't get it. I don't really don't see it getting much easier out of that. Um, that would put you at 8 wins, which really is not going to be enough. And you're definitely not getting in the division. I really don't think that well, I shouldn't say definitely because I guess it's still up and it's still a chance, but I really think that this is the Niners division to lose with the way that they've been playing. Um, so as it relates to this game, I guess we can talk about that. The Cowboys are on fire. Their defense has continued to be dominant. Uh, Tony Pollard hasn't been great on the run game, but he's definitely serviceable and against a Seattle defense who really can't rise to the challenge, especially when they're going to have to defend against CeeDee Lamb, who has been on fire recently, and Dak, who I think really isn't getting given his flowers. He has had a great season. Dak Prescott has had really an amazing season, and like I'm not necessarily going to bring up like MVP, uh, like odds or anything like that because I don't think that's that level. But I mean, he's been great. Like this, if you are looking at a year and you're a Cowboys fan, is like, okay, this is where I think that we're going to make a deep run. This would definitely be the one. Um, because it's hard to find holes in this defense. You did lose Diggs, which was a really big issue, but the defense has been able to stay dominant. And I just don't think that Gino, especially when he's struggling with really already struggling with injury, isn't going to be able to overcome this. And I mean, despite Zach Charbonnet looking decent, he had a couple really good runs against the Cleveland defense, who is also pretty vetted. Um, I don't think it's going to be enough. I really don't. And I think the Cowboys are going to get to him. Um, it's not going to be a good day. So the Seahawks are going to fall to 6-6. The Cowboys are going to receive their ninth win.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just one thing that I came across this last week, and we took last week off, but the Cowboys don't have a win against a team with a winning record.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I think I brought this up against the Raiders and the Dolphins game, which by the way they struggled with, which we were right about. I don't think that this is the same story though. I think that they just got a really easy schedule. Like
Yeah.
I think that the Cowboys are actually legit.
I don't think it will be as dominant as they've been. They'll win by like 10 to 14, but I don't think they'll be winning by like 30 or anything. I think the Cowboys win as well. And that's mainly just because the Seahawks are really banged up right now. And they're back-to-back Thursday night games, so back-to-back prime time. So they've had a week compared to, I mean, the Cowboys and Seahawks have both had a week. Actually, thinking about it, they both played last Thursday. And it's not looking like Kenneth is going to play. Gino looked compromised last week. I'm not sure how better that's going to be. So I have the Cowboys winning as well. And yeah, the Seahawks, they got to get healthy and they got to get healthy quick if they want a chance, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah. One I guess bright line to this, if you're a Seahawks fan, is that Bobby Wagner has been playing really well. And if you are able to stop this Dallas offense, and just kind of punch them in the mouth and get them off their rhythm, that may be the way that you get moving. But I think just Bobby Wagner can't do anything about the offense.
Yeah.
So you have to go against that stellar Cowboys defense, and I think that you're going to be in in a world of hurt. Vegas expects it to be which is kind of what we expected, like a 9 point spread. So I like Dallas by 9. So I think that's pretty fair. I think that they know they got that one right on the money. Um, yeah, so I think I can lead us over to our next game, which is the Falcons Jets, which is actually oh sorry, not the Falcons Jets, the Colts Titans, um, which is kind of interesting because the Colts have quietly built up a winning record under Gardner Minshew. Um, and although they've lost, well, actually no, they lost Jonathan Taylor to I think a thumb surgery for the next 2 weeks, which is really not what you want. Um,
To hear.
in a season that you have been quietly building momentum uh, against a Titans team who's really good at home. Personally, I think that Derrick Henry is going to be able to get things moving despite the Colts defense being really solid. When we played against them with PJ Walker, I mean, it's kind of hard to judge when you're playing with PJ Walker because it's probably you're the one who stinks um, if the defense looks good. Uh, but I think that Levis has been serviceable. I think that it's really going to be most of this should be driven through Henry. Uh, who knows what's going on with DeAndre Hopkins? But my gut tells me Titans, especially just mostly with the way that they've just been so dominant at home. And then when you lose Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the most important aspects of your offense, unless you're able to get Moss moving again, I feel pretty confident in the Titans.
Yeah, I disagree. And that's because the Titans have been so inconsistent all year. Seems like they have one decent game and then they completely poop the bed. And Will Levis has been serviceable. He's the best quarterback on that roster. Um, but let's not forget what Zach Moss was doing before Jonathan Taylor came back. Zach Moss was on an absolute tear. He did it against your Browns and he was doing it to everyone else beforehand. And I think even though he hasn't had the biggest like running back share, I think he picks right back up. And I think it may not be as dynamic, but I think it gets the job done. And because I mean, let's pull up his stats against the. He was 23, 165, and 2 touchdowns against this Titans team uh earlier in this year. So that's pretty good numbers. I mean, that's as good as it pretty much can get. So I think Zach Moss runs all over him again, and I mean, it's gonna be close, but I think Colts go to 7-5, and that's just really interesting. Because I mean, that would put them at the top, or that would be put them with the Texans. And did they beat the Texans? I forget. Yeah, they beat the Texans
Yes, they
31
would
to
have the
20.
tiebreaker in that moment.
So they would move to second in the AFC South, which they do have. The Jags have to completely fall off for them to win the division, but this is a sneaky team that could sneak into the wild card.
They are sneaky. I just don't think that this is the week. I think that losing Taylor is a big issue. I think that they structured their offense around him a little bit more now that he's healthy, or one, he was healthy and he's no longer healthy.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I think the Titans will win this game is like they have been so good at home. Like they're 4-1 at home, and they've played teams that are better than the Colts. And I know that's like kind of a rudimentary way of looking at this, but they had a win against the Chargers, they had a win against the Bengals, they had a win against Atlanta, and they had a win against Carolina, which like all are decent, like except for the Panthers. Now, granted, that was a time when Burrow was still like recovering from that injury, so it's kind of hard to tell. Um, but I think they're certainly capable. And although not much has changed about this Colts team, I don't know why my gut is just telling me they're not the Titans this week, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll just have to. I mean, that's one where we disagree, and we
We'll just have to come back to
we'll
it.
see how that shapes out. Next up is an interesting game. We got the Desmond Ridder Falcons versus Tim Boyle, the quarterback matchup of the century. And the Jets are not going to win this game. They had, what was it, 6 yards or like 6 yards or something until the fourth quarter or something like that. It was some crazy stat. I mean, if there was a play to define the Jets season, it is them throwing a Hail Mary on the final play of the half, a Dolphins player catching it untouched, like uncontested, and then him being able to run back for a pick six on a Hail Mary. Like, when have we ever seen that? That just
Yeah,
defines
the
this Jets
announcers had
offense.
never seen it. Yeah,
And I can't, I want to pick the Jets because I think they got the better defense, but I just can't with who they have at quarterback. So I got the Falcons winning this one. And it's going to be close
yeah,
regardless, but I just can't see this Falcons team winning.
yeah. I have the NFC South divisional leaders, the Atlanta Falcons, winning this. Uh, at 5-6, by the way, which is a crazy truth. Um, I don't know. They've been quietly good, Braden. I think that the Falcons actually have been able to put things together. I don't know what happened with Ritter getting benched, but he was able to get a win out of this most recent game against the Saints. I mean, which is a big game for Atlanta. Um, he was 13 for 21, which I mean is not great, but like 168 yards, one TD, and two interceptions. These are not good stats, but they were able to get things moving. Um,
The play that
Bijan
really
was
turned around that
yeah,
game was the Jesse Bates pick six that they
which
had.
yes, that Jesse Bates have been incredibly impactful for this team, and I think that although the Jets do have a better one, I think that the Falcons have the personnel to punish a Tim Boyle led Jets. Which, by the way, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I don't think so. I think this is just smoke and mirrors. Like he's Aaron Rodgers always is trying to be like a capture attention. That's why he's on McAfee every week. That's why he's like not every week per se, but like that's why he's always trying to get the spotlight on him. And I just don't think it's happening. I don't think it's happening now. I don't think it's happening in week 16. Like I think they're just going to try and wait it out because they're not even there's no reason to do that. There's no point in bringing out like what is he like 42 or something like that, a 42-year-old man out on the field to
Is he 42?
he's 39, sorry, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
um a 39-year-old man who just tore his Achilles out for a potentially like I don't know, like 5-10 team. Like, do you really want to do that? Is that something you actually want to do? Because if they do that and he gets injured again, that's seriously Robert Sala's job. So I, I don't know, man. It seems like something that we have to monitor looking for, but I think it's just talk.
Yeah, and one thing, this is a like looking way in advance. What I could see happening is the Jets drafting a QB soon and having him develop under Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is like willing, that'd have to be a talk within the franchise. But I could see that being a real possibility because I mean they obviously got all sorts of QB problems without him. And I don't know if it's Zach Wilson or if it's the system. I really don't. Because I mean I feel like he's got so much hate. Like, yeah, he's played bad, but like if we look at other like quarterbacks in these bad situations in the league, can you say that they're playing a lot better? Like some of these really bad ones. So like
Well, he has been really bad by basically every conceivable metric, like the worst in the league, like which is not good, but it's like you can't really blame him that much. I mean, Aaron Rodgers talked about how he kind of feels bad about the situation, and it's hard. To me, I would try and trade him. Maybe you can get like a fifth or sixth round pick out of him. Um, but yeah, you have to draft. In my opinion, you have to draft a quarterback if you're the Jets. Like, and we can
JJ
talk about like
McCarthy.
going for. Yeah, he's Zach Wilson 2.0. He just looks. He has a more punchable face. Um, Anyway, yeah, I guess you can go to the Jets. Fine. Um, but yeah, I think you have to. You realistically you have an empty quarterback room because you can't put Zach Wilson out there again another season.
Yeah. I think that's all the attention Zach Wilson and the Jets deserve after this
Yeah, I
season.
agree.
Let's move on to Lions Saints. Lions, they pooped the bed in Detroit on Thanksgiving. They've lost like 8 or 9 Thanksgivings in a row or something like that. It's some ridiculous number. And Pat McAfee was like, I mean, they turned in the same old lines, at least one like every couple weeks, and this was a week where I mean, this offensive line played awful. Anytime they went on fourth and down, Jared Goff had like 1.5 seconds before he got sacked by Rashawn Gary over and over again.
He also fumbled 3 times.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he fumbled like twice in the span of 3 plays or something at the beginning of the game.
yeah.
So they are looking to bounce back against a Saints team who has been all over the place. They look really good one week and then they look really bad another, and then they look all right, and then they look good again. I think the Lions have looked more consistent this year. Definitely. I mean, they're sitting at I think 8-3. So they're not in a bad spot even though they lost one. But I think the Lions, they've had a while to sit on this. They'll have a good week and a half, and I think they'll come back and win this game convincingly because this is against Danny Campbell's old team. So I think he'll want to win this one.
I actually think this is going to be pretty close. Uh, like I still believe in the Lions. I think that we do need to have the conversation about Jared Goff potentially capping it. Not that he's played bad, like by and large for the rest of the entire season, but I mean he has had some pretty crappy weeks. Um, I mean he's coming off of what was it, a 3 interception game uh against the Bears. He he threw 3 interceptions during that game. Still threw uh for 236 yards, which is incredibly solid. But I don't know. There's these weird weaknesses of in Goff that keep popping up, and I think that with the team as like wild cardy as the Saints team, I think that they're going to be able to take advantage of that. I do think the Lions do end up coming out with a win, though.
Yeah, I still think they're a playoff team, and I still think they'll win the NFC North, especially
Yeah,
how the Vikings played last week.
it's theirs to lose. It's definitely theirs to lose. We'll say that. Even with the Packers on the up and up, they have about 3 games in between them. I don't think that they're losing that.
Yeah, and I mean, they're have they played the Vikings yet? Yeah,
The Packers
no,
or the Lions?
no, the Lions. They still have to play the Vikings twice. So if they win, like they split with the Packers. So I mean, tiebreakers will be all over the place. But yeah, I think This is definitely the Lions' division to lose, and it'll be interesting to see how they start to come together. Because I mean, the defense hasn't played the greatest either.
No.
So that's yeah, we'll see that on Sunday.
Yeah, one game that I will definitely be watching just because I have an emotional stake in this, but also it's just going to be a really good game. I think it's definitely going to be the best game in the 1 p.m. slate. Is Broncos Texans. You have two teams who prior to the season were pretty awful, like in a miserable state, and now they're they're really the hottest teams in the entire NFL, like converging right on each other. The Texans are coming off of a sad loss against the Jags, who they normally beat. Um, but so I was just surprised to see that loss. But I mean, it's at Houston against a really competent Denver team. They Houston is down an O lineman, which is not good, and it's something that this Broncos team I expect will be able to take advantage of. Um,
They're down a kicker.
they are also down a kicker, which is kind of I kind of feel bad for him though. Like that's not it wasn't
I don't know if
as super
he
easy kick to
he
make.
he hadn't been playing well though. I think that was
Okay,
just
that could
like
have just
he
been the
I
nail in the coffin.
yeah like I'm pretty sure he missed like two other field goals. I could check, but like he wouldn't been playing the greatest. I know
Didn't he
that.
get injured too? Like during a game, they had to bring they had to bring the running back out to make a kick.
Yeah, it was either him. No, I think he was the replacement for that kicker.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
I believe.
yeah. Either way, I think that the Texans do win this game. Um, well, actually, no, I take it back. I think the Broncos win this game. Um, the Broncos are going to continue on their streak. Uh, with the way that Cortland Sutton was moving around, on our defense, I was extremely concerned the entirety of that game about where he was and the way he's able to make those catches. It seems like Russell Wilson and him are able to have this weird connection where it just magnetically floats into his hand and he's able to stay in bounds. Because this happened like 2 or 3 games in a row where he's just had this crazy catch. Um, Initiated by Russell Wilson of all people. But I think that with the Houston Texans defense, which hasn't been super solid, they've struggled, especially against uh, I mean, they struggled against the Bengals with the. I really think that they would have lost that game if Higgins was in against the Bengals because you wouldn't be able to cover Chase. Um, I don't think that they're going to be able to do this with Judy and Sutton, and they've got this weird running game moving, with Samaje Perine, who is looking like almost the better running back who maybe should have started in Cincinnati, but I don't know. We can talk about that. Um, the Broncos look really solid, and as much as I love this Texans team and I think that they're feisty and they're like gonna be competing for a playoff spot for the rest of the season, I think that they lose this game, which unfortunately just further entrenches Denver in the playoff push.
I think the Broncos will win this one. I think they're rolling right now, and this is like I would say this is like a explosive offense, kind of like the Dolphins, and I think they'll kind of prepare for that. They'll kind of, and I think they'll want to be able to shut down a good defense like our offense like this. And I think the Broncos will come in and try to prove themselves against Houston. And yeah, I think with another kicking situation, it's not. It may not seem that important, but in close games like this, that's what it can come down to. And I think the Broncos win by one possession. I think this game will be close, and I agree it'll be very entertaining for the 1 o'clock slate. But I think Broncos win it.
Yeah, it's gross, man. It's like almost like we watched Napoleon and like we went on Napoleon this week, and it's like the Broncos have become a problem officially. Like we just need someone to punch him in the mouth. Like we we need this to stop. All these AFC like this. I'm an AFC North team who's still in playoff contention, and I want it to stop quickly because they're on our tail, and someone needs to take care of it. CJ, if you do it this week, I will be eternally grateful. Because really, like this team is hot. I struggle. Like I am interested in seeing if they can get back to that if they get punched in the mouth and they lose a game because it should happen. I don't expect if you look at their schedule, they have a really good schedule. I don't think that they're only going to lose 5 games though. I would struggle to believe that. I think there's going to be one that they lose.
But moving on to Brandon Staley's funeral game this week. Um, I'm coming out bold here. The Patriots are winning this game. They're doing it. Brandon Staley is going to find a way to lose this game. I've said it all year. Nebraska Chargers, they're going to lose it. This is the week he gets fired. After this game, he will get fired. It's yesterday. A bunch of people were coming out and saying that it's going to unless if they win the Super Bowl, he's basically done. So they're going to lose this game this week. It's going to be similar to Bills Patriots earlier this year, where Bills just it felt like it was a trap game for them. They were just kind of looking ahead, Oh, it's the Patriots. We've been beating them. I think the Chargers are not going to be ready. They're going to put up, I think I don't know who's going to start at QB for the Patriots, but I'm picking the Patriots. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm saying the Patriots, this is the last game they win all year, and it's Brandon Staley's funeral, and he's gone.
Yeah, so I actually agree with you. I think that the I think that the Patriots are going to win this game. I don't think the Chargers are smart enough to make that decision, though. I think that they're actually, for some reason, going to wait till the offseason to get this done. I
Why? What
I
is it?
don't know. I just
What?
don't get it.
How does that benefit them?
I don't know why. It just seems like something they would do. It seems like they think that they're just like going to give them a chance. Like maybe they can get it together. Maybe they can put some sort of push. But like I don't. It just doesn't seem like something they would. As a Chargers organization, it just seems that here's my rationale, and it took me a little while to get to here. They have lost awful games this season. They have lost miserable season games this season, and he should have been fired ages ago. Why are we doing it now and not before? They've not proven to me that they have the cojones to do that. So if they want to prove me wrong, they can. And I would love to see an uncorked Justin Herbert. He's been playing a great season, and it would continue to be great if he wasn't throwing it to Quentin Johnston and not being coached by Brandon Staley. So prove me wrong, but I just don't think they're going to do it. I think Belichick is like 6-1 against the Chargers or something like that. I think it's in it with it also being at home. It's something that you need to consider.
It's
That's
in
just
New England.
yeah. So it's possible that Belichick just has his team's number, and as much as the Patriots seem like they want to lose, I think they actually will win this game, like you said.
I mean, their defense has played pretty decent too. Patriots wise, it hasn't been the worst. I mean, they held the Colts to 10, held the Giants to 10, which I mean, those are, not the greatest offenses, but they played well against the Eagles and Dolphins, respectful defensive wise. So I think this defense is going to keep them in the game. And that's why they're going to win because Chargers are bound to make a mistake, just with the inexperience coaching wise.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Fire Brandon Staley, please.
Yeah, it's coming. It's next Monday or Tuesday after they lose this game.
Yeah. All right. Cardinals, Steelers. What do you got for us, Brandon?
I think Steelers win because the Cardinals are not. Even with Kyler back, they're not that good. I mean, Kyler makes them definitely a lot better, and I think people are just forgetting about him and assume everyone wants Caleb Williams on the team, but Kyler is a very good QB in this league. I mean, look what he's doing just with this team. They look explosive at some points. But I think the Steelers have we've said all year their defense is amazing, and I think they made the right stride last week. And this is another defense where they can play well against if they coach the way they coached last week. If they go Matt Canada style and decide to throw out routes or double moves the whole game, it's not going to work. But I think the Steelers won this one. By two. I can't even say two possessions because they didn't beat the Bengals. But they'll win by one possession, but It'll like be a dominant one position win, if you know what I'm saying. Like they'll have like a bunch of yards, they just won't be putting points up. Like they'll be missing field goals or something.
Yeah. I I don't even want to talk about this, to be honest. I don't like the Steelers. I don't like the way that they win games. I think it's dumb. I think that I can praise them for their adaptability, like they're able to figure it out, but they are going to win this game. You're going to beat the Cardinals, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh my gosh, the Canada was the problem," and they're just going to continue to be mediocre. Like, not and their record won't indicate that, but unfortunately, you are good as your record as you in this league, so it's just like it's not a fun situation to be in if you're a member of the AFC North. Um, I thought that Fryermuth, I mean, he had a really good game, and if you can keep hitting that, I think that he's going to be a veritable aspect of your offense if you're the Steelers. Um, Joey Porter Jr. has been solid, like a really good pick in the draft for that one. And I don't. I'm interested to see if Jaylen Warren continues to put up stats. I would like to see him get usage more because he was instilling fear in my bones when we played against him. Um, and will I think and continue to do that for other teams in the league. Uh, but that's really all to say. The Cardinals, they got absolutely destroyed by the Rams, which is not a team that I expect to be, I guess, renowned for their success by the end of the year. Let's put it that way. So it's not going to get any easier with the Steelers.
Oh.
Dolphins Commanders. I'm interested in this game because you have possibly the worst corners in the entire league against just the fastest team
In the NFL.
possible. And I don't see this going well for the Commanders. I think this is going to go quite poorly. I think that the Dolphins will win by 2 scores, which kind of it interestingly enough puts the Commanders in like kind of like a really bad situation even for them because if they lose this game, they're going to be at 4-9, which when you look at their schedule, it's really not going to be that easy to get even up to your like standard level of mediocrity if you're a DC. Like you play the Rams next, which is not going to be easy. You play the Jets next after that, which maybe you can get a win out of that. And then you play the Niners and the Cowboys. Like we genuinely may be looking at a five, like a 5-12 Commanders team, which is worse than before, and it bucks the trend. And we were kind of expecting under new management and under Sam Howell for there to be like genuine improvement, and especially with some of the defensive success that they're known for, that there would be at least competent defenses. But I mean, you got rid of Sweat, you got rid of Young, and then now your defensive coordinator is gone. It, it's not a great situation to be in, and I think Ron Rivera may be out the door next. Uh, I don't know if you're just kind of like bloodletting by getting rid of the DC and just kind of putting a target on Rivera and saying you're next if this doesn't get better anytime soon. But I mean, like this is not what you're expecting if you're a Washington Commanders fan, and it's not the good kind of what you would expect, or what you wouldn't expect. So
Yeah, the Commanders are not playing well. They've played probably 2, 3 good games this year, and 2 of them were against the Eagles. So that's really the only like games where they've looked good. 'Cause, I mean, they got embarrassed that Thursday night in against Chicago, and they've had yeah, you mentioned the cornerbacks, they're not the greatest. And I think Ron Rivera is on his way out. So I think Miami wins this convincingly by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And Miami, I think they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. This is a very explosive offense, and yeah, they're going to get it done. They, yeah, I mean, there's no they're going to get it done. Period. That's pretty much all you can really say about that.
it's kind of hard to imagine why this team isn't scoring because when you look at their red zone efficiency, they're in the upper half of the league, really, and they have a cushion of about 5 teams. They're 11th in the league as it relates to red zone efficiency, and I think Sam Howell is the leading passer in the league. Like I think he has the most yards, like
I think
above
it's just
Stroud
come down
or
to this.
like that.
I don't think coaching has been the greatest.
I mean, not.
You
I mean,
haven't really seen them like really improve throughout the season. They've just been the same.
look, here's the thing. They played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and Dak Prescott threw for 331 yards. Sam Howell threw for 300. He had one interception on Dak's zero. And Curtis Samuel had more yards than the leading receiver for the Cowboys. Granted, the Cowboys have more weapons. It's just like Curtis Samuel had more yards than Brandon Cooks. It, I don't know if it comes down to Howell, but I mean, he had zero touchdowns during that game. They only had 10 points. So it's like I just don't. It's hard to. Maybe a Commanders fan can fill me in because like this must be the most frustrating team to watch in the world.
Yeah, and it feels like they've either put up like 35 plus, played a really close game, which hasn't been that much, or as they've put up like 10 points and got blown out.
Yeah.
I feel like they haven't really, and yeah, like they just really, I don't feel like they've like improved that much throughout the year. I feel like they've just stayed the same, and that's the
Hmm.
reason why they're losing these games.
Yeah, I agree. That's not gonna be fun.
Yeah. But moving on to Panthers, who we talked about, who cleaned house, versus the Buccaneers, who I don't even know what they're kind of struggling right now as well.
They're dead in the water. You can't do it. Like I don't think that they have a path forward.
Yeah, but
Like
I think they win this game because
yeah.
I don't see they clean. I mean, we saw the Raiders do it, but like I think the game that the Raiders like came back to was when Daniel Jones tore his ACL against them. So,
Hmm.
but I think the Buccaneers won this game. I think Baker has played all right. I mean, he got banged up in on that game on Sunday and came back, but I mean, I think yeah, I think the Buccaneers win this because I don't see the way Panthers could win after like all that's happened this week. We saw the Raiders do it, but like I feel like the Raiders have a lot more talented team than the Panthers.
Yeah. I also think the Buccaneers are gonna win this. I shouldn't say that they're dead in the water necessarily because they are kind of still in the race for their division. I mean, like I said earlier, the Falcons only have 5 wins and the Buccaneers have 4. But I don't know if I mean you have the Saints in between them who are tied with the Falcons in terms of win-loss ratio. I think that they're just going to have a real hard time getting back into this. Like I think they're going to have a difficult time making that win up. And Baker hasn't looked the best in recent history, despite Mike Evans still showing out. It's not a great situation to be in if you're Buccaneers. It's just like painfully mediocre, and they're not really getting much coverage about it because they are that mediocre. They're just in that weird limbo phase where they're probably just not going anywhere. Um, but we're going to coast until the end of the season, and maybe they'll spice it up with another change. But that may be another coach that you could look at potentially getting rid of, and that of Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Um, so keep that
Ever
on the
since
lookout.
Bruce Arians left, it's been on the decline,
Yeah,
slowly and slowly.
but there's not much more to say about that for this game. I mean, unless cleaning house solves the problem, I don't see the Panthers taking care of
I
this.
think it solved the problem to a degree. I don't think they're gonna like go out and house like 50 on them. I don't
No,
see that happening at all with this offense, but you never know.
yeah. All right, Niners Eagles, and what should be a really interesting game. I think this is probably the toughest Eagles game. Or I guess on paper this should be the toughest Eagles game in a while. I mean, I don't understand what happened with the Bills, but they just had a crazy course correction. I mean, you can talk about changing offensive coordinator. I really don't think that was the designated factor. But I mean, it's been rough recently. You're going through a gauntlet if you're an Eagles fan. Um, but I think that the Eagles do in this game on the Niners. I think with the way that AJ Brown is playing, we've been able to see that the with the Niners DB room, you are able to throw deep. And I think AJ Brown is just itching for more catches. I think that he's going to want to get back to kind of asserting himself as the dominant wide receiver in really the whole league at this point. I mean, CeeDee Lamb has kind of taken the place, it seems. after that pretty awful Chiefs game where he only had one catch. Um, I think that just, with this being at home, with this being a unfriendly environment for the Niners, it's really gonna stink. And I don't know as if you're gonna be able to get Brock Purdy to make the mistakes that he was making on that downward spiral. When they were pretty injury prone, but I think the Eagles find a way to get it done. I mean, DeAndre Swift is always solid. You can rely on him, but weirdly they didn't do that during the Bills game. So I hope they get back to that because he's incredibly shifty, and I think that people overlook him way too much. And I think that he is a very competent and important member of this offense.
Yeah. This game is very. I think this is a great game. 49ers Eagles game of the
Yeah,
week. It's in Philly, right? That's what I have down here.
it's in Philly. Yes, it
Yeah.
is in Philly.
Um, and the way the Eagles have been playing, I just don't think I can go against them. The 49ers have been playing impressive too, and I think this will be kind of like the Bills Eagles game where it'll be offensive orientated and it'll basically be which defense can get the stop. And I think these are both great defenses. I think the offenses are just that good. It's not like where these defenses are terrible, but I think Eagles win this one, but it'll be it'll either be like a game-winning touchdown or field goal or something where like it'll come down to the final possession. It'll be like can the Eagles get a stop or can they go down and score? And I
Hmm.
have faith in this Eagles team for them to be able to do that. Because I mean, other than like the rookies they've got on, most of this team has been like here these past couple years and they know how to get these wins.
Yeah, I think that I will definitely be watching. Well, actually, I'll try and have it on a dual monitor so I can watch my Browns as well. Um, I'm sure about to get into. I think that if Hurts can get it put a dominant performance on the Niners, I think he will be the MVP favorite. But it's all going to matter. It's really all going to depend on if it's dominant or not. All right, Browns Rams. In a kind of really rough situation for the Browns to be in. It's like it's not that it's necessarily a must-win game, but like if you lose this game, like it's the tumble backwards is a really potential reality. I mean, here's the thing: you have 6 games left. You have to win 3 if you're the Browns. I'm thinking you need to get to 10. Um, and this is one of the easier-ish ones. I mean, it's going to be, I mean, looking at this schedule prior to the season, once you really get past the Seahawks, it was supposed to get a whole lot easier. And for the most part, the Browns have been able to handle it. We beat the Cardinals, we beat the Ravens, we beat the Steelers, and then we got smacked in the face by the Broncos. Um, but this could be a potentially rough game. You're on the road for 2 weeks. They're practicing in UCLA right now. It's unclear as to who's going to be quarterback, if it's Joe Flacco or DTR. You just have like it's just been a miserable week as a Browns fan because you had Myles Garrett coming out and saying that he felt a pop in his shoulder, which we weren't clear if that was another shoulder injury that could sideline him for potentially the rest of the season because he had to get an MRI for it. You had Amari Cooper take that crazy hit. There are people dropping these passes all over the place, and we have no idea what's going on. Like it's just not a fun offense. It's like almost a worse offense to watch than at the start of the season where like Watson was struggling. So it's like this game is it's really going to have to answer the question, are the Browns able to stick around? Like are we able to get up after taking punches? Are we able to like and they have taken punches. Like we have an all-pro O-lineman out. We have really the best running back in the entirety of the NFL who had like probably one of the worst knee injuries you'll see on a NFL field. You have our starting quarterback out, and you potentially had our leading edge rusher, defensive player of the year favorite Myles Garrett out, but like for the season. That was a potential on Monday. Fortunately, it looks like there isn't structural damage, and that um like it's a possibility that he can continue to play. Um, and it looks like he will play against the Rams, according to Stefanski. Um, it's and all this is tough. Like all this is stacked against us though. And one last thing I'll say, I know this has been a long like tirade about this team. Greg Newsome against Cortland Sutton, and this is what I was preventing myself from saying earlier. He was absolutely awful. I've not seen worse DB play than Greg Newsome on that. I would have taken Jalen Ransom, Ransom in that game against Michigan, where I was looking at him where he publicly murdered a Michigan wide receiver in the end zone for basically a free touchdown, than Greg Newsome in that game. It was awful. Completely walking free, Cortland Sutton was. And if that happens again against a Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua offense, we're completely screwed. Granted, I don't think that's going to happen again. I think that this is going to be able to get it together, and I think that they're going to be able to handle these wide receivers, especially with a quarterback who has definitely been holding back the team. If it could be Stafford, it could be really anyone at this point with the injuries that he's been showing. I do think that the Browns win this game. I think that if we're able to get our guys running, if we realize that maybe we should run on the outside instead of sending Jerome Ford right up the middle, then we can get things handled. And I really hope that DTR plays if he is able to get through the concussion protocol. Although I don't think it really changes the outcome that much if Joe Flacco plays. I think he may actually be able to hit Amari Cooper, and Cedric Tillman, who was showing a lot of flashes during the last game in a way that DTR maybe wouldn't be able to, just with the experience that he has. You're going to be limited mobily, but the offensive line has been playing pretty decent with Dewan Jones. So I think that it's not likely that the Browns win, but I would put my money on the Browns. Period. Setting the pencil down.
I have the Rams winning. I'm gonna tell you why. I don't think DTR will play. It's people have not like people that entered concussion protocol haven't played the next week this year. I think they've really tightened up on it with the whole Tua
They have
situation last
tightened
year.
up on it.
But and Joe Flacco literally came off the couch, and I don't think he'll do well against this Rams defense, especially with Aaron Donald right in front of him. I mean, he's not the Baltimore Ravens Joe Flacco, and we saw glimpses of him last year, especially against your team in New York. But I don't think he's like the best option for you, and I think the Rams have like the weapons to beat you, especially with what's his face Mitchell back, Kyron Mitchell.
That is a concern. Yeah, but
is that the
It's
Ravens
Kyron
guy?
Mitchell. No, that's Keaton.
Okay, it yeah. Um, I think the Rams. I don't think because I just don't see. I could see the Rams putting up like 24 points, and I don't see the Browns getting to 24. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I struggle to see the Rams putting up that many points though. I think
I
that
just
this is going to be a defense that's going to be able to, like, you couldn't put up over 10 points on the Packers. They put up 3.
yeah, but that was without Stafford.
Oh, that is true. That was with freaking Brett Rippon.
Yeah,
But like, even then Stafford hasn't, I mean, you can pick any game that the Rams have played recently and they haven't been great. I mean, they were able to put up like they were able to put up 20 points on the um the Cowboys, but in my opinion, a lot of that may be related to just the Cowboys moving the ball so much and them able to just get off the field so quickly. They put up 43 points in that game. I don't think the Browns are going to be able to do that. I think that there are going to be drives that are longer and do whittle down on the defense. I doubt that they are going to be able to get to that
yeah.
many points.
But yeah, I just don't trust Joe Flacco. As much as I want to pick the Browns and their defense, there's so much uncertainty there that I'm picking the Rams. I think it's gonna be a close game, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this Brown teams respond after Denver. Yeah, I still can't pick the Browns. I think I'm gonna have to go Ravens on this one.
Rams.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to Rams.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I
I'm not
don't
too
think
mad
that's
about that.
completely unreasonable to say either.
It's a
Like,
tough game,
yeah,
and it's not fun having a quarterback like that out, and
yeah.
just this being a. It's really gonna be.
This will be your fourth quarterback this season if Joe Flacco plays.
You don't need to remind me, dude.
Well, I'm just like that's just a stat that
That's
like
I know. It's just I'm just glad we made the decision and aren't putting PJ Walker out again there, because dude, when he got put out there, it's like that was like the Grim Reaper walking into the game and murdering the Cleveland Browns like in the middle of the field. Like it's just not happening once he comes out there.
All right, but moving on to Sunday Night Football, which actually, with seeing how the Packers played last week, can be interesting. Packers Chiefs in Lambeau. But I think the Chiefs still win this game. I think they started to find themselves in Vegas last week. They went down to early 14-0 hole, and then they really started to explode offensively. Rashid Rice had a great game. Travis Kelce had a good game. Pacheco had a good game. And Mahomes had a good game. So they really turned it on after that like 80-yard touchdown by Josh Jacobs. So I think not the Packers, the Chiefs won this game. And I think they actually do it convincingly. I think they do it by 14 to 17 points.
Yeah, I think that the Chiefs will win this game. I don't know how convincing it'll be. I give me like 10 points. I would like them to get it together because I have Travis Kelce in fantasy in our youth group league, and I have quite quickly been falling because he's not been putting up. I think we do need to talk about Travis Kelce potentially. He doesn't really look like himself, and I know that's like kind of harsh to say, but he's like he
I feel
doesn't
like
have
that he's
the
like
zip that
double
he normally
teamed
does.
every game.
That is true, but like that hasn't always been effect. Like they've been doing that. Like they've like it's not like Travis Kelce randomly got good. Like they people have always wondered about people have always worried about Travis Kelce while he's been the player that he is. So I don't know. I think he is kind of showing his age, but he's still like the best tight end in football. Like
I
that's
mean, it's not like he's had bad weeks. I feel like Mahomes has just gone to other options because I've seen plays where Kelsey's been open under like down in the flat, but that like he's gone for the downfield option.
I don't know. That may say something about Mahomes because who are you throwing to? Mar Marcus Valdez Scantling,
Yeah, I mean,
Justin Watson. Like I don't know. Like
he's. I mean, Kelsey's only had 3 games under 50 yards receiving. I mean,
yeah, I know, but that's like not. We haven't seen the Kelce of the past. Like we're not we're not seeing him put up these crazy like these these runs in a way that you can look at that and not say that there's been some sort of regression.
yeah,
Uh, like, and I'm not saying he's a bum or anything like that. He's still the best tight end in the league. He is an integral part of this Chiefs offense. And if he was gone, I think that the as a net offense, this offense would be a whole lot worse. Like he's really your only genuine vetted option on that team. I mean, you could throw it to Kadarius Toney, Marcus Valdez Scantling. You could throw it to Justin Watson. You could throw it to Rashee Rice, or you could throw it to Travis Kelce. And to me, he really is the only option and should be the only option. Um, I don't. It's possible that these just throws aren't possible to make if he's being double teamed, but I don't know. I would like to see some improvement.
regardless, I still think the Chiefs won though, even though.
I agree. Yeah, I give me like 10 points though.
Yeah. But moving on to Bengals Jags. I was actually looking forward to this game before Burrow got hurt. 'Cause this would have been a great offensive showdown between Jags Bengals, but I don't think there's no question who's going to win this game, and it's the Jags. I mean, Jake Browning isn't getting it done, and I don't think he will get it done. And Jags will win. They'll put up. This will be ugly. This won't. It's in Jacksonville. This won't be a good game, like for Bengals fans. So I think Jags won this pretty much convincingly, and I think that's how almost everyone's looking at it.
Yeah, this would be a really fun game if Burrow wasn't hurt and we just didn't have the season from hell where everyone was getting their
Yeah,
limbs snapped off. But it, I gotta take the Jags in this one. They are just not equipped to handle this. Jags really either side of the ball. I mean, Josh Allen has had a pretty good year. And the Bengals the I'm glad that they got Ridley more involved because people were kind of expecting that to be the connection over Christian Kirk, and they were proven wrong pretty quickly. But and so much so that Calvin Ridley was kind of taken out of the equation for a number of weeks. But they've made connections recently, and I think that is going to be for the better of their offense. Um, I think people kind of wrote off the Jags after they kind of had a disappointing start of the season, but not wrote them off in the sense that like they just weren't going to be a good team, but it's that you struggle to put them in that like top caliber.
Yeah.
But it may be if in this game, if they perform super well, it's not going to qualify them in any by any means. But like I mean, 9-3 is 9-3.
Yeah, I mean they were the
So
1 seed for like 3 hours, so
yeah,
you got to give them some credit.
that's true. So I don't know. Hopefully the Jags can get a more convincing and better win coming up here against a team who isn't just in the desolation um soon. But yeah, give me the Jags in this one.
Yeah, I mean this
Right, well,
this week has some entertaining matchups, but there's some stinker ones like Monday Night Football. Like I don't know if I want to watch it. I don't know if I want to see my team get destroyed.
yeah,
I'll,
that
I'll I'll obviously still watch it, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's a game like where it's
you kind
gonna
of want to
hurt to
close your
watch.
eyes. Yeah, yeah. I've. It's not like it's I've definitely. Yeah, that Broncos game hurt to watch, just with the way that we were getting, mostly with the way they were getting hit, man. Like that, to see your players that you've been rooting for like this entire season just get like absolutely killed. And I don't know if other people who play the Broncos have felt this before, but like, man, it's not a fun watch. Like
Yeah.
people are dropping like it's The Walking Dead. Um, but anyway, I think that wraps it up for this week. Um, let us know if your team won, if you're happy about it, if you think that we're stupid for poorly evaluating it. Um, I hope you do win. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And that this week after holiday weekend wasn't too bad for you and you're able to get back to work and relax. But uh, let us know what you're thankful for because we have a lot to be thankful for over this,
We're
over our
thankful
lives
for
and also this
football,
year.
obviously.
Thankful for football. Thank you that it gives us something to talk about. Um, and I'm thankful that I was gonna say something about Jim Harbaugh, but I won't because which is a nice thing to we're in a night we're having a nice conversation. This is a neutral zone. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. I hope you had a great holiday and we'll see you back next week.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.
Peace.